The new guys were introduced on Sunday. They are exactly what the Heat need right now, especially Andrew Wiggins, who's going to fill a major team need. I'll tell you what it is and break down his fit on both ends of the court on today's Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or your favorite podcast app, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. I'm Wes Goldberg going solo here on Super Bowl Sunday. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Have a great show for you today. Recording this again Super Bowl Sunday morning. Just got back from the Heat's introductory press conference for Andrew Wiggins, Davion Mitchell, and Kyle Anderson. No major takeaways from the press conference. Other than Davion Mitchell seems really excited to be here. I think all three of them are really excited to be here, but Davion Mitchell, you could tell, he's like chomping at the bit now to get going. We're going to talk about Andrew Wiggins' fit on offense and defense, then touch on Mitchell and Anderson here in a bit. But to me, Wiggins is the headliner here. Former champion, helped the Golden State Warriors to that championship in 2022, former All-Star. We know Andrew Wiggins. He's been in the league now for 10 plus years. The book is out on him. We know who he is, right? But I do think that this fit is going to be really interesting for Andrew Wiggins on both ends of the court. And I think it's going to be exactly what Miami needs. And we could overthink it. We're going to start with the offense. We're going to go to and then we'll do the defense in the next segment. And in terms of his offensive fit, we could overthink it. I don't think we need to. This is really simple. Andrew Wiggins provides bottom of the ledger production. And I think that's something that the Miami Heat sorely need and have needed for a really long time. I would even argue even when Jimmy Butler was around, right? They still needed that reliable, I just know what I'm going to get from this guy type of production. Andrew Wiggins for his entire career has basically averaged between 18 and 20 points per game for each of his seasons. And you add that to the mix for Miami, and I think you're going to see pretty dramatic results and impact across the board. And you're going to see how that's going to impact all of his new teammates, too, in Miami. Here's the thing with Wiggins. No nonsense, available, low maintenance. He's not the most efficient player. There are going to be nights where he does disappear. There's going to be nights where you're going to want more from him. But for the balance of the season, you just know what he's going to give you. 18 to 20 points per game. That's going to be his averages. He's going to make open threes. He's going to score. He's a three-level scorer. He can handle a little bit. And like I said, we could get it. We can overthink it. We can get into, okay, how is he going to be used off ball? What can he do in pick and roll and all that kind of stuff? And I think that's helpful, and we can get into it. But at the end of the day, what you're getting is 18 points per game. And as good as Haywood Highsmith has been in this starting lineup, defensively especially, right? You even get like energy from guys like Pelle Larsson, the occasional night from Jaime Jaquez Jr., although, in this season it's not been as good for him. But we're not talking about Haywood Highsmith and defensively what he means. We're not talking about Pelle Larsson and being an energy guy. With Andrew Wiggins, he's giving you the defensive, that elite defensive play, while also giving you production on the offensive end. And that is just something the Heat have not had, right? Think about this. I'll put it this way. What was one of the biggest factors for Miami's 2023 run to the finals? Jimmy Butler was playing great. They got contributions. What was one of the biggest factors other than Jimmy Butler being playoff Jimmy? Caleb Martin. Caleb Martin went from averaging less than 10 points per game in the regular season to averaging 13 points per game and 5.5 rebounds per game in the playoffs. Elite three-point shooting in the playoffs. And remember how dramatic that felt when Caleb Martin was playing that way? That was just 13 points per game in the playoffs. Andrew Wiggins is at 18 points per game, 20 points per game. So just take playoff Caleb Martin and the way that Miami's offense looked then, just getting that production from Caleb Martin, and now apply that to a regular season. And that's what you're getting from Andrew Wiggins. Now, they don't have the star power, right? They don't have playoff Jimmy Butler doing things, and that's obviously a huge factor here. But you've got Bam Adebayo, you've got Tyler Hero playing the best basketball of his career, And then you're getting this production now from Andrew Wiggins. So if you're getting 18 from Wiggins, 18 to 20 from Wiggins, 20 to 22 from Tyler Hero, and then 18 to 20 from Bam Adebayo, like, that is a functional team, right? It's not a big three. I don't even know if that we're in the era of big threes anymore in the NBA. But when you have a guy who you can just rely on to be productive, what that's going to do to guys like Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo, it's going to help them. It's going to be, Bam, we don't need you to score 24 to 25 points per game. The 18 to 20 is fine. 16 points per game with world-class defense, that's fine because we're getting production from another spot. Tyler, you don't have to do all of it anymore on the perimeter. We're getting production from another spot. Even guys like Terry Rozier, his struggles have been so loud this season. He's played a little bit better recently, but his struggles have been so loud recently. And if he's struggling, it's still going to, hamper the offense, and it's still going to be a problem, but it's much less of a problem if you're getting that production from Andrew Wiggins. Haywood Highsmith, they don't need him to score a bunch of points. They never really were asking him to score a bunch of points, but you don't need to rely on a Pella Larson or an Alec Burks to kind of erupt off the bench and pop off randomly. You don't even need, like, Khalil Ware. The lob to Ware has been Miami's most reliable source of offense over the last month or so, and that's still going to be there. But you don't need to ask the rookie to score 15 points per game, right? He could score 10 because you're getting production from another spot on the roster. It makes everybody else's job a lot easier, especially when you consider Andrew Wiggins, his durability. You can rely on him to be out there every single night. You just know what you're going to get because he's steady in that way. The other part of this that I'm really interested to see, the difference between Jimmy Butler and Andrew Wiggins, there's a lot. The one I'm most interested to kind of spotlight here, though, is the three-point shooting. This is going to be a really interesting test case on talent versus fit. Clearly, Jimmy Butler is the more talented player. He's an advantage creator on offense. When he's engaged, he could do things that few players in the league can do on the offensive end. Andrew Wiggins is not that. Jimmy Butler is a reliable playmaker. He's an awesome passer. You trust him to run pick and roll. He can run your offense. When he's motivated and engaged, he can run your offense. That's not Andrew Wiggins' game. He dabbles a little bit in pick and roll and stuff, but you really want him as maybe like a secondary shot creator. Jimmy Butler very much is a primary shot creator. He's the more talented player. I think Andrew Wiggins might be on this version of the Miami Heat. Not I think. I know. Andrew Wiggins on this version of the Miami Heat is just the better fit. And a big part of this is the three-point shooting. Andrew Wiggins averages 5-6 three-point attempts per game. Jimmy Butler doesn't take threes. Just in today's NBA, we know how important the three-point shot is. Going from a 0 in terms of three-point shooting at that spot to a guy who's shooting 38% on threes over the last 5 years on decent volume, 5 to 6 three-point attempts per game, that's going to be a really interesting test case to see, all right, we know that talent wins, right? Fit is also extremely important. Fit is extremely important. Look at the Phoenix Suns. Talent all over the roster doesn't really fit that well. Miami, they have talent, right? You have 3 former All-Stars, Bam, Tyler, and Andrew Wiggins now. But the fit for Wiggins, spacing the floor, what that's going to do for Bam and Ware and that front line now, how that's going to help Tyler Hero, how it's going to help everybody. We're going to see this offense look dramatically different just because you're getting that three-point shooting from another spot. The Heat, for years, I've always argued this. Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, bad basketball fit. Kind of remarkable how much success they had over the last 5 seasons, considering how bad of a basketball. They're your top 2 players, neither of them space the floor. Now you've got Ware, who spaces. You've got Bam, who doesn't, right? But that's okay, because he's the only one who doesn't space. If it's Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Andrew Wiggins, Khalil Ware, and Bam Adebayo, 4 of your 5 guys are legitimate spacers, especially Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Andrew Wiggins. Those guys are legitimate floor spacers. What that's going to do for Bam, what that's going to do for Ware, what that's going to do in terms of helping Miami's pick and roll offense. I think we're only beginning to understand what that's going to look like and the dramatic effect of going from a 0 from Jimmy Butler in terms of three-point shooting to a major plus in Andrew Wiggins. And then the other stuff that we're going to see there too. I mentioned the pick and roll. He's going to dabble a little bit as a secondary playmaker. I think that's going to be really helpful. He's going to be a release valve for Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo. That stuff is going to be there. And then as an off-ball cutter, Andrew Wiggins is extremely athletic. And I think we sometimes lose sight of that with him because he doesn't show it as much. But as a lob threat, he's going to be there. As an off-ball cutter, really smart, really great timing there. And that's going to take a little bit more time to iron it out and kind of figure out that chemistry and that kind of thing. But I think there's going to be lineups where Nikola Jovic, who's a really good sort of over-the-top passer, is going to be able to find Andrew Wiggins cutting baseline. I think Bam Adebayo obviously is going to be able to do that too. What does this look like when Tyler Hero and Bam are running pick and roll, or Duncan Robinson and Bam are running pick and roll high up on the floor, and you've got Wiggins cutting from the weak side? And maybe Bam can find him in the short roll. I think you're going to see that too. We've even seen Khalil Ware. It's a lot less, but even Ware has been able to spray out to guys on that short roll. If you get Ware on that pick and roll and you got Wiggins cutting baseline, maybe Ware's finding him for the lob. Again, Nikola Jovic, we've seen him do this time and time again with Ware. I think he could do it with Wiggins. Wiggins is going to ultimately, like he was in Golden State, be asked to hit open threes, rebound, cut, and defend his butt off. And I think he's going to be able to do all those things here in Miami. We're going to talk about the defensive side of the ball here after this on Locked On Heat. Today's episode of Locked On Heat is brought to you by Skims. When I found out Skims was making underwear for men, I was intrigued. I've heard so much about their quality from friends and family, so I had to give it a try. Let me tell you, it lives up to the hype. I've always had issues with underwear, fit, comfort, just finding the right style for me. Skims changed all of that. Their men's line offers something for everyone, from boxer briefs to classic briefs, all designed with the perfect balance of comfort and style. I tried the Skims Stretch 5-inch boxer brief, and I'm telling you, I'm hooked. These are perfect for my active lifestyle. They move with me. They never lose their shape. They stay in place all day. That's key. Whether I'm working out or just running errands, they're the most comfortable and reliable underwear I've ever owned. I'm wearing them right now. Plus, the lightweight material feels amazing, almost like you're wearing nothing at all. I shop Skims Men's at skims.com and Skims stores. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey, select our show, Locked On Heat, in the drop-down menu that follows. And if you're looking for the perfect gift for Valentine's Day or for yourself, Skims just launched their best Valentine's shop ever. Available in sizes for women, men, and kids, and even pets. We'll be right back. Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Your favorite NBA team is a free daily newsletter. Introducing the Locked On Heat newsletter, one stop for ultimate Heat and league coverage with local analysis and amazing writing from Katie Heindel, Mike Shearer, and Locked On fantasy basketball tips from Josh Lloyd. Sign up for free now at lockedondaily.com. Let's talk about Andrew Wiggins on the defensive side of the ball. We shared the stat last week after the trade. Andrew Wiggins ranks as one of the top isolation perimeter defenders in the NBA. You're going to see that right away. But here's the difference between, and I don't mean to keep comparing him to Jimmy Butler, but it's going to happen. He plays the same spot. He's the headliner in the trade for Jimmy Butler. But Jimmy Butler is, we know what that looks like defensively. He's a defensive playmaker. He jumps passing lanes. He gets steals. He creates transition opportunities. He's able to create those swing plays, and it's what makes Jimmy Butler at his best such a valuable player. Andrew Wiggins is not that. He's not really jumping passing lanes. He's not a guy who has a high steal rate at all. He can get blocks and stuff like that, but these aren't things that typically are going to lead to transition offense. But what you're getting with Wiggins instead is a guy who's just going to body up his man, keep him in front of him, and just be stable defensively. He, like I said, ranks as one of the top isolation perimeter defenders in the league. So when you're going up against the Boston Celtics and they've got Jason Tatum out there, Andrew Wiggins is going to get that assignment, and he's going to do a great job on that. I think you've seen Jimmy Butler. A lot of times Miami used him as their primary defender on guards, right? So he's getting the Devin Booker, the Donovan Mitchell assignments, and then you would have Haywood Highsmith kind of take the wing. I think we could still Wiggins can do that. Wiggins can go out and guard a Donovan Mitchell, but I think you even like him a little bit better guarding wings than even Jimmy Butler at this stage of his career. So when Miami runs into Cleveland, who just had acquired DeAndre Hunter, when they kind of go into, but they obviously still have Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. When you're playing Boston, when you're playing the Pacers with Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam, when you've got Milwaukee with Damian Lillard and Giannis, Andrew Wiggins is going to be able to slot in a lot of different spots and guard a lot of different kinds of players. And I think just having that, again, the word I keep going to with Wiggins is stability. He's just solid defensively. He's not going to create plays, but he's going to be solid defensively. And I think you're going to now see a shift in Miami's defensive approach, where for years, I think the Jimmy Butler era to me defensively was sort of defined by let's get steals, let's create turnovers, let's wreak havoc defensively. And when Miami's defense was at their best, that's what they did. But I would also argue just in possessions where they weren't creating turnovers, they were really just an average defensive team. They were an average defensive team when they were not creating those turnovers. I don't think you were going to see them create quite as many turnovers anymore, but I think they're going to be very good defensively on their on just your run-of-the-mill possession. On a possession-to-possession basis, I think Miami's defense is going to be better than it used to be. They're not going to create as many turnovers. They're going to have to figure out what that means for their offense because they're still going to need to generate offense and good looks on offense. But that's where the spacing and all that kind of stuff now with Wiggins kind of comes into play. I think it should loosen things up in the half court a little bit more. And then obviously you've got Tyler Hero, all-star season. Bam has been playing a lot better. You've got the vertical lob threat of Khalil Ware now. So they're figuring things out offensively. Defensively, I think this team is going to be better. Not just because of Andrew Wiggins, but you add Davion Mitchell to the mix. You've got still Haywood Highsmith, who's not going to be asked to do as much anymore, and he could just go out and just be this elite defender. And that stat that I shared about Andrew Wiggins being one of the top isolation defenders in the league, so is Haywood Highsmith. Miami employs now 2 of the top 8 isolation defenders in the league, according to B-Ball Index. So you have lineups now where Spo's going to be able to go, all right, let's put Highsmith and Wiggins out there. You're playing the Celtics, Highsmith, you get Jaylen Brown, Wiggins, you get Jason Tatum, vice versa, whatever it is. And you're not going to take those guys out, but that's a stout defense, and they're not going to want to see that. So you've got that. Not going to be as turnover reliant, but I think they're going to be more stable on a possession-to-possession basis. We're also seeing them going back to switching 1 through 4. You've got wear and drop, and you're going to be able to switch now 1 through 4 at a really high level. Miami, in doing this trade, by adding Wiggins and Davion Mitchell, they've doubled their amount of good to elite defenders. I think before this trade, considering that Jimmy Butler was suspended and away from the team, so we're not counting Jimmy Butler at this point, Miami had 2 good defenders, Bam and Haywood. Everybody else was not good, right? They had 2 good defenders. You add Wiggins and Mitchell, now you have 4 good to elite defenders. And by doubling your amount of great defenders, we talk about offensive talent all the time, and I think there's this idea that defense is all effort. Defense is not effort. Effort helps defense, being locked into your scouting reports and all that. Like, all that stuff matters. There is such a thing as defensive talent. Wiggins and Mitchell have a lot of defensive talent. Bam is obviously a world-class defensive talent. Haywood Highsmith is a great defensive talent. They have defensive talent now. This defense is going to be better than I think it's been in a long time. It's not going to create as many turnovers, but I think on a possession-to-possession basis, after this trade, the Miami Heat have the potential to be one of the best 5 defenses in the league. Where before, they were always sort of hovering around top 10, which is above average. It's good. The Heat could be an elite defense, and that could be the foundation of this team going forward, the identity of this team going forward. I think it's going to be a very Miami Heat team going forward. The other thing here about Andrew Wiggins is the durability. He's played 70-plus games in 3 of the last 4 years, and the only reason he didn't in one of those seasons was because he was dealing with personal problems off the court, and he was excused from the team for a majority of that season. So this guy is durable. He plays a lot of games, and that's the other big difference between him and Jimmy Butler. Jimmy was averaging 21 missed games a year over the last 3 or 4 seasons. Andrew Wiggins is giving you 70-plus games and a lot of minutes. And so when I go back and talk about bottom of the ledger production, that's what I'm talking about. He's getting you the points per game. He's giving you that reliable defense, and he's doing it a lot. He's doing it every single night. He's out there for 70-plus games, playing 30-plus minutes. This is going to have a dramatic effect. After this trade, not only are the Heat going to be better defensively, this is a better regular season team to me. Let's talk a little bit more about this. We're going to talk about Davion Mitchell's fit, Kyle Anderson's fit, and what all of this kind of means big picture next here on Locked On Heat. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started. There's no better place to get in on that action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or you want to bet on the fourth quarter comeback, you could stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets in a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three, I never feel like I've missed my chance. Plus, the app is so easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. The best way to support the show, like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app. My main takeaway from the introductory press conference on Sunday, Davion Mitchell is so excited to be playing for the Miami Heat. He answered every question with such energy and went out of his way to respond to questions that were not even necessarily directed at him. He's great in the media. I think Heat fans are going to fall in love with this guy right away. He picks up 94 feet. You hear his teammates talk about, look, Davion Mitchell, he was a lottery pick. He was the 9th pick in the 2021 draft. He's been in the league for 4 years now, but kind of not really used that much in Sacramento. And then he's playing in Toronto. Not a guy playing on a lot of national TV games. Not a lot of guy that I don't know how many Heat fans even knew who he was before picking him up in the trade. And yet, basically every Heat player had an opinion of him. That's rare. I'm telling you that's rare. That goes beyond just, hey, the scouting report before you're playing Sacramento or Toronto. This is a guy who caught Miami's eye. The Heat have liked Davion Mitchell even during the draft process, but they just didn't have a lottery pick, and so there was no way to get him. But they did scout him, and they do like him, and Eric Spoelstra is a big fan of his. So when the opportunity was there for them to swap PJ Tucker for Davion Mitchell before the deadline, they jumped at it. There was no question that they were going to do that. And they were even willing to include another second-round pick to get that done because there's a belief that Davion Mitchell is a Heat kind of guy. And, man, he is. I've also been a huge fan of Davion Mitchell dating back to his days at Baylor. The Heat have been looking for a guy like Davion Mitchell for a very long time, right? We saw what a guy like Gabe Vincent can do when he was playing well as a point-of-attack defender. We obviously saw how Drew Smith basically changed everything for Miami defensively when he was healthy this season. Davion Mitchell is going to do that right away, but he also has that lottery talent. He's a better athlete than Gabe Vincent or Drew Smith is. He's stronger than those guys are. And to see what Miami is going to do, we saw what they were able to do, basically building Gabe Vincent and Drew Smith out of, with all due respect, nothing, right? Guys who were just out of the league, G Leaguers. They built them into legitimate rotation players. Davion Mitchell is already a legitimate rotation player. He was a lottery pick. Same prototype, lottery pick talent. What is Miami going to be able to do with that? Their developmental staff with this. I find it very intriguing. Davion Mitchell, I think, is really excited to get to work here. And the fact that even his teammates are noticing this guy picks up defensively, 94 feet. He's a great on-ball defender, all these things. The fact that they've noticed that from afar is very telling. It's very telling. Heat fans are going to fall in love with this guy. They're going to fall in love with him. I'm telling you, they're going to fall in love with him. The other part of this is Kyle Anderson. Kind of the quieter part of this, there was the Heat were trying to move him before the deadline just so that they can get under the luxury tax and stuff. They like Kyle Anderson a lot. Don't get it twisted, right? There's the financial part of this, but the fact that they were able to get Kyle Anderson in that trade was also meaningful because they had that other trade with Toronto before the Davion Mitchell thing lined up. Toronto ended up going with the Brandon Ingram when that became something that the Raptors were going to be able to chase. They basically pulled out of the Kyle Anderson deal and went ahead and went with Brandon Ingram. So that part of the deal fell through. But Miami was always prepared to bring Kyle Anderson to the team. They like Kyle Anderson quite a bit. He's a plug-and-play rotation guy. You talk about, everybody who's ever been around this guy talks about his high basketball IQ. And when you look at the teams that he's been on, they all win, and then they all miss him when he's gone. Ask the Minnesota Timberwolves if they would like to have Kyle Anderson back. 100% they would. They're missing a guy like that in their rotation. He's really smart in terms of how he paces the game. His nickname is Slow-Mo for a reason. You'll see him, even when he's in transition, he does look like he's playing in slow motion, but that's his just unique pace to the game, and it does throw guys off. He kind of just goes slower than the natural rhythm of basketball game. So when he's kind of going up for that shot, it just takes a little bit longer, and you'll actually, I think defenders have kind of caught on to it a little bit more, but you'll still see a defender kind of go early for the block or something like that. And he's still just sort of winding up into his shot. And so it creates some kind of crazy looking moments on the court. But defensively, his positioning is really good. He's 6'8". He's going to provide more size. He can play the 3 or the 4. I think there's going to be really interesting lineups that Miami's going to be able to unlock with Kyle Anderson and Andrew Wiggins, maybe with Bam at center, and then 2 guards where you're going to be able to switch everything. I think that's definitely in the cards for them. Every team needs a guy, kind of, I would argue, like Kyle Anderson, who can just plug in, low maintenance, hit open threes. He's a really good rebounder, and he's going to be a great fit in that locker room. So here's my big takeaway, zooming out big picture on all of this. The Heat, I thought, were 2 rotation players away all season long from being a legitimate playoff team. No disrespect to Pelle Larsson, Jaime Jaquez, who's having a down year, even Terry Rozier with his struggles. It just felt like Miami was 2 or 3 rotation guys away from having a legitimate playoff rotation. They got those guys. Andrew Wiggins, Kyle Anderson, and Davion Mitchell walk in day one as 3 of Miami's best 8 or 9 players right away. All 3 of them need rotation minutes. It'll be interesting to see how Eric Spoelstra divvies this out. Where does Kyle Anderson fit in? I think if somebody's going to be kind of the odd man out, it would be him, just because it's kind of tougher to find his spot, because you do have Wiggins, you do have Haywood Highsmith. You're going to want to still play Jaime Jaquez probably. Even though if he keeps struggling, maybe he's out of the rotation. I don't know. TBD on that. But Davion Mitchell is going to get on the court right away. He has to. Andrew Wiggins is going to be a starter right away, obviously. And now the trickle-down effect to, okay, now we bring Haywood Highsmith off the bench. That's very interesting. You've now flushed out this roster with 8 or 9 high-end quality rotation players. 3 all-stars, right? 3 guys who have all-star on the resume between Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, and Andrew Wiggins. Like, this is not a team that's lacking in top-end talent. Tyler Hero's an all-star. Bam Adebayo, I know it's been sort of a down year for him offensively, still a top 25 player in the NBA. And by the way, since moving to power forward, he's been a lot better. So we're only going to get better Bam Adebayo going forward. This is a team now that has structure, that has real depth, real versatility, has options, has spacing, proven guys who have won in the playoffs between Wiggins and Bam. And I think they're gonna play really hard. Wiggins is going to be available. Davion Mitchell is going to be picking up 94 feet. Kyle Anderson is one of the smartest players in the league, if you just ask players in the league. This is all the stuff that the Miami Heat have prided themselves on for years. Hardest working, best prepared, meanest, toughest, all that stuff. This is a team that's going to work really hard, that's going to be really competitive. And I think some of that started to wane over these last couple of years. I think about this quote from Bam after that Brooklyn game. They asked, what's going on? He's like, it's the little things. We're not engaged on the details. That's not Miami Heat culture stuff. This is a team that was always dialed in on the details, always working hard, always locked in on a possession-to-possession base. That's how they won games. I think they're going to get back to that now. That's what you can expect with these 3 guys. And now that the cloud of the trade deadline is gone, and we've got a resolution on the Jimmy Butler saga, and we've finally turned the page on all of this, you're going to see, I think, the Heat double down on all of that Heat culture stuff that has waned over the last couple of years. And I think that's something that Heat fans are going to get really excited about, and I think they should be really excited about. This team is not a finals contender. Let's make that clear. But they are a legitimate playoff team, and I think after these moves, this team is going to be better in the regular season than it's been in a really long time. I would bet that the Heat end up getting one of the top 6 seeds in the East, which they haven't done since 2022. I don't think this team is a play-in team. I think this is a legitimate get into the playoffs, get that play-in week off. That's what this team is going to be. I think that's really exciting to see a team that's going to go out there and take the regular season seriously. That's what you're going to get from this team. I think Heat fans are really going to enjoy it. I think they're really going to enjoy Andrew Wiggins. I think they're going to enjoy Davion Mitchell. They're going to enjoy Kyle Anderson. I'm going to enjoy watching this team play a lot more. I know that for sure. But for now, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app.